Oh, really?
Yeah, we were talking on the phone. Good morning. Hi, Steph,
All right. Good morning. And I said, oh, really saying that. Good morning, y'all. Good morning. The invitation this morning. Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this day. We're always grateful for an opportunity to serve you and our community. Pray today over our meeting here that you give us wisdom and help us to do things that are blessing to all our residents here. Be with all those who need your healing touch today across our county. Father, we also pray for the protection of our residents and ask you to keep all our folks safe here. Thank you, Lord, for all you do for us. We pray in Jesus' name. Join me to pledge the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, Texas pledge, honor and Texas flag, pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Right. Let's see. Do we have any announcements today? Any public comments? If not, we do have a full present and voting today. President voting precinct 1, Commissioner Hatfield, precinct 2, Commissioner Timmons, Sims presiding, precinct 3 is Commissioner Coos, and precinct 4 is Commissioner Devon. All of our county courts order. This is the 4th day of December. It's 9:04 a.m. We're here in the historic courthouse, Mitchell, Texas. First item this morning is from the auditor, financial reports. Good morning, Ms. Davis.
Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. You should have a copy of the September 2025 financial report. Please keep in mind these are unaudited and unadjusted financials. As of September 2025, our fund balance is $30,981,147. On page 2 is a summary of the general fund. As of September 2025, we have collected $30,649,164 in comparison to $29,402,035, which is an increase of $1,247,129 or 4.24%. On the expense side, we paid $29,862,294 in comparison to $26,446,920 in FY24. That's an increase of $3.4 million. And you'll note that the majority of it's in public safety, and that is the control room and the jail, or the control system in the jail and the annex and main jail, and the communications equipment. On page 3 is a summary of the net position. As of 2025, we collected $786,870 more in revenue than what we expended, in comparison to $2,955,115. That's a decline of $2,168,245. And of course, that's related to what we spoke about, the higher expenses at FY25. On page 4 is a summary of the Greater Bridge Fund. As of September 2025, we have collected $7,517,801 in comparison to $8,181,924. That's a decline of $664,123 or 8.12. In FY 24, there was a one-time expense for the sale of motor graders. On page, at the bottom of page 4 is a summary of the expenditures. As of FY 25 or September FY 25, we issued payments for $7,153,257 in comparison to $9,963,159. That's a decline of $2.8 million. There was a purchase of the motor graders where we actually acquired them versus financing, and then we also had the balloon payment for the motor graders that we traded in. That's why our expenses were so high in FY 24.
So in 24, we had the receipt from selling the motor graders,
Which offset some of the expense.
which increased our revenue, and then we had the increased expense when we bought those.
Autumn and had the payoff of the balloon payment for the financing of those 7 motor graders that we traded in. On page 5 is a summary of the Greater Bridge Fund. As of September 2025, we collected $364,544,000 more in revenue than what we expended in comparison to $1,781,235 as a deficit in FY 24. On page 6 through 11 is a summary of the monthly expenditures in comparison to budget. Page 12 through 17 is a summary of the expenditures in comparison to budget. Each of those are by department. On page, I'm sorry, the lighting's not the best up here. On page 11 and page on page 17, I am going forward, I am going to make a modification to my report. The current report includes non-pooled cash expenditures and funds, which is confusing to the average public citizen, because when you look at those 2 pages at the bottom, there's fund 850, fund 895, and fund 940. Those 3 funds are not part of our pooled cash, whereas all of the other funds listed there are part of pooled cash. So in essence, what we're doing, especially with Fund 895, because that's our agency funds. And when I mean agency, those are the funds where the individual departments deposit the funds they collect. And then at the end of the month, those funds are deposited into our main account. So it's basically double counting. So to get more clarity and understanding of our financials going forward, those funds will not be identified.
Now, some of that, when we talked on the day of gas stuff.
Yes,
Would it affect the gas line?
no, sir. Because what it's doing is we're keeping it in the fund by itself so that we can meet the guidelines for GASB 84. So because anytime that a department deposits money in one of their checking accounts, we have to report the receipts and expenses. And so, because in essence, basically whatever we collect should be issued out to someone at some point in time. So it's those that the Fund 895 is basically, for lack of to simplify it, is a pass-through fund. So instead of trying to include everything, I'm going to focus on pooled cash because that's where our expenses and revenues are.
Well, wouldn't 895 and 940 both be basically a pass through?
940 is not a pass through because 940 is our medical expenditures. So I wouldn't consider that a pass through because whatever we receive, it's not where whatever we receive, we immediately pay out. There could be some residual funds depending on the claims of our employees at that point in time.
Well, when you look at the sheet, though, it appeared to be because of what's in is what's out.
It's because we didn't have a decision. We didn't, we
We expended,
Because if you remember in FY 25, we spent all of the funds that we had budgeted in the non-department because the county was covering the higher medical claims. So whatever we put in, we've been paying out. But there have been some years that we're not necessarily paying out everything that we put in there.
but, you know, what's confusing to me when I started looking at this and talked to the David was that number that's in that employee trust fund, is that number not also in that general fund total that's up top of $34 million?
Portion of it is.
So it's double counted in that fund.
Yes, a portion of it's the county contributions are double counted because the county contributions are in each department's, and that's the $7,800 that the county contributes per employee, that it's part of our healthcare. So that piece, the expenses in where whatever department or fund the employees are located, and that's double counted, but the employee contributions are not double counted.
What about like the $30?
The $30 in any supplemental, vision, dependent care, prescription of, what else is there, life insurance.
Dental bill.
Yes, those would not, that's where those are captured in that fund.
But the biggest part of that number is gonna be part of that $7,800. So
Yes.
in essence, the whole fund might not be double counted like it is in the 895, but the biggest portion of 940 is a double count too.
Yes, because of the $7,800.
It wouldn't break it out separate from when you, or you just talk about taking the 895.
I'm talking about remove on the report excluding the 895, the 940, and the 850. Because all three of those are not pooled cash. And this report is focused more on pooled cash.
Right.
And I think it's confusing in just average citizen not understanding the accounting of it. It could be confusing and them not understanding that that's basically a pass through.
Well, I think everybody would be confused, even that deals with it, because when you look at the bottom number, you know, that's what caught my attention, was $104 million. And I'm thinking, where is it? Where we got that?
Right.
You know, and when you start looking at it, you know, it appeared to me, the average joke that is possible, you know, a flow through, and I understand the flow in, flow out of that situation.
Right.
To me, it shouldn't be counted double when you get to that.
And that's why, just for more clarity.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Okay.
And we have no debt.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, we have no debt.
I think we're all- Right. Any other questions, comments from Ms. Haynes on our financial reports? If not, we'll move on to item number 1, consideration of approval regarding line item transfers.
I do not have any.
Yep. Item number 2 is consideration of approval of the payment of regular bills. Okay. Motion by Commissioner Ebar, second by Commissioner Timmons. Any questions or comments on our expenses? Not all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None, motion passes 5-0. Number 3 is consideration and approval of payroll for November 21, 2025.
Motion.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Hatfield, second by Commissioner Coos. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Number 4, this is consideration and action subject to ratification of the approval of the transfer of funds to group health insurance for medical claims in the amount of $250,000. Is there a motion? Motion by Commissioner Timmons, second by Commissioner DeBar. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. I have just one question, I guess, about this $250,000. I know we've been doing this very regular. You may not be prepared to answer this, but how are we at similar level of medical expenses as normal, or?
We're a little bit higher as far as payout. On average, we're probably about the same. If you remember, last commissioner report, Mr. Armin said that we're getting close to some stop loss payments, which, I mean, you can tell from the insurance claims that we've had and the frequency that we've had to ask for gratifications, that they have been a little bit higher. So hopefully we'll get some stop loss. If we don't, then we'll be coming back for some more funds.
Who tracks the stock loss? Is that something common in?
Yes,
So basically, if you get 2 or 3 employees that are approaching that number, once they reach that plateau, then it kicks in, so that those big payments will go to the insurance.
that is correct.
Very good, thank you, ma'am. Next up, Rich Clark, your administrative first. Good morning, Mr. Powell.
Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. I do have an administrative report for you. It is a update of our activities for the month of November. As you know, we are focused on our routine maintenance efforts this time of year, which is overlay, pothole patching, culvert replacement, ditch cleaning. We're also doing some brush and tree cleanup as well as litter and trash cleanup. So a day like today, our crews will be cleaning up brush and litter on the sides of the road rather than doing anything substantial with that because of the rain. For the month of November, we used approximately 837 tons of oil dirt for our overlay work. We used about 68 tons worth of tightening macadam. That's for your pothole repair. We completed 25 tons of soil cement on Frierson Road, that small section, which I believe we discussed at the last commissioner's report. We installed 2 driveway culverts and 3 new cross culvert upgrades. Substantial pipe sizes, 58-inch diameter and 72-inch diameter. I believe the 72 were on Country Club, if I remember correctly. We are currently working on getting our backup generator installed. We did the electrical work yesterday, ran the conduits. I believe the plumber is coming in the next few days to do the gas piping and the regulator for it. We expect delivery maybe end of next week, maybe at the end of the week after that. The concrete slab is supposed to be poured next week to carry. So that's good news. That'll get us backup power for if the weather comes back. We got operating, there's no power, so that's good. And we are also working with our smaller crews because our guys are using that comp time that they crew in their constructions. And then in the shop, we're performance of preventive maintenance on a lot of our big equipment, getting it ready for construction season next year. That's a key factor of keeping our machinery and equipment running. So the shop mechanics and operating, we're doing that now through the winter.
One quick question I had for you. We got an email. I know when you were in on the Commissioner Timmons, I forgot the name of the road.
Is it
Red Oak.
Red Oak?
Red Oak.
Correct.
So I guess there's a cemetery at the end of it that we're complaining about not being able to get up and down, and I guess due to bad weather. And do we have any plans or ability to?
Well, we actually graded it off in the early fall of this year to try to take some of those ruts and humps, and there's a low spot that's got a culvert to it that I think gets water over top of it when it really rains. It's a dirt road, so it's going to get slimy, the top layer when it rains. That's a function of dirt road. That's going to be a big conversation that we have with both my staff and myself, as well as with you all, as to how do we handle dirt roads? How do we handle gravel roads? When do they rise to the level of being fully reconstructed with a chip seal or an asphalt, wearing course? Or do we upgrade them from a true dirt road to a good solid gravel road? Right there. That's going to be a huge debate as to what triggers all that. What could be the factors, the criteria that might do that? Is it, major subdivision happening and, 30 homes getting built all of a sudden? A major industrial complex shows up on that road somewhere, maybe that drives it. So that's gonna be something that I'm gonna need to look at. And I read the petition, I saw what they requested. And we're gonna have a conversation as to what does that look like moving forward? How do we address it? How do we set aside funds to do that work? What does that work look like? You know, who's gonna do it? Are we gonna do it internally? We're gonna use outside help to build it, you know, that's gonna have to be a conversation that we have as a higher level. Because it's gonna affect all the way across the county, not just Red Oak, not just some of the other dirt roads that we have, so. That's gonna have to be something we talk about, we're gonna have to have a plan in place, just to respond to them that, hey, we understand the concern. We understand that there's cemetery at the end of the road, there's family trying to get there, those are all valid concerns, but how do we address it from a county perspective?
It's not only just family trying to get there, but hearse.
Right, right, all the reasons you
Trying to have a funeral and that's not a good look on the county. Because it is a county road. Now, we do have a guy that has been at us and has some type of material that can harden these dirt roads to where they are passable and stuff like that. And do you think that you could reach out to them and try to find out what it would cost to, that's a good experiment, road.
correct,
To
right,
see if we can use that material in other areas across the county.
right, that's an example of that engineered emulsion, that engineered binder that Commissioner Ebar had brought to me, that's a good, perfect opportunity to try it, to pilot, test it, see how does it work, does it keep the dust down, does it keep the gravel in place instead of using it to the edges, you know, what does it look like when it rains on it, you know, those are the big key factors, so you're absolutely right, could be a test road to do that kind of work, to see how that binder actually performs in that soil type, because that's the key. You gotta match up your binder with the proper soil type to get the best result you can.
What's the distance of that, Red Oak, do you know?
Along with it.
How long?
Yeah.
There are several sections of that road. I think it's roughly a mile from where you turn off the paved down to the cemetery. In the past, that portion of Red Oak Road was under, like, taken care of by the state money. And they just quit maintaining it, so that's why we're hearing so much about the cemetery.
Is that the only, is the cemetery, is home, is a home?
There's no homes back there.
And that's why I said, you know, when you look at criteria to determine when a road rises up to needing significant work done to it, what does that look like? You know, what are all the factors that would come into play with that? Cemeteries are obviously a huge one because it's family oriented. There are people trying to get in there, as you say. You know, you have family plots that try to, you know, have funerals, you know, that's a huge piece, but it's lacking some other elements like residences, businesses, that sort of thing.
And
How do you balance?
we have heard from the church, that normally maintains the cemetery and things like that. And we'll probably be hearing from some of the, funeral homes.
Mhm.
Because they're vehicles, that's having problems and somewhere I read that we are supposed to maintain roads leading to cemeteries. And
That was in the past when we used to work with them to do indigent burials in that
but
cemetery.
that's not what I read, you know, that's not what I read.
Okay,
But I think what you're referring to, because I don't remember reading it, it's not that you shall, but the county may,
Right.
maintain those roads that are in and out of.
And I think that's what he's talking about, a big conversation with
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To see where we need to, or would like to go with
Right.
this.
Well, it's not just Red Oak Road.
I think that once every more around the county, I know I've got one off on market that I had to hurt lately, but, it's got actual 2 or 3 homes, it's been built through the years.
in the past, there were some agreements with local cemeteries, small cemeteries. When the county did indigent burials, when I joined the county in 2013, that kind of had gone by the wayside, and since that time, we don't do any more indigent burials, so we don't have any agreements with those cemeteries anymore. So that factors into it also.
Roughly how many miles of
county unpaved roads did we have?
Is it-
I think it's 68.
68 or 69? Yeah, so say 70 miles to round up to a whole number.
I knew it was a pretty big number, so I think I've got a chunk of it.
So it sounds like this road, if it's getting that nasty, it's probably a lot of clay in there. And, you know, Oldfield uses a lot of iron ore that doesn't get so slick and holds up, or SB2.
Right, and there's sections of this road that have SB2 in it. I believe the mining company did that. Because again, they need to get in and out. That's like oil and gas. They don't want to get stuck. So that's the options. That's the things that we're going to look at. What are the available options to create a good riding surface that is all weather? That's the key, is all weather. Because you can't predict what the weather's going to be when you need to have a funeral service or you need to have a family gathering at a plot, to recognize your family members. You might pick today to do it. It may not be the best time to get in there. So we need to look at all those things, and not just for Red Oak, but across the county, right?
If you would, go ahead and respond to those folks, let them know we're working.
I can.
Then take a look, let's look at, I'd love to try that emulsion, just see if it works.
Mhm.
Maybe send in soil samples so they know what we're dealing with, and maybe they can adjust their formula to fit it.
Correct.
Our-
And that's how you do it.
And then we'll look at, if that doesn't work, then we'll look at maybe, I think if there are no homes down there, gravel road's fine, whether it's iron ore or SB2 is probably more expensive, but whatever will hold up longer, make more sense. But if you would take a look at that, that's fine.
Well, I was just gonna say, I know we've talked several years, and at one point, this emulsion product was, $12,000 to $15,000 to do a mile. To treat with it, so if, in your opinion, if you think that would be a good place to lay a test site down, of course, it's not gonna tell us what I'd like to see, like West Road, where you have a lot of traffic, chemical and gas, but in your opinion, that's what, that might not be, it might not work for that scenario with that type of heavy field traffic, but, if we could do something that would hold up for years to go with not a lot of industrial or trash trucks or heavy oil fields, it might be a good spot to take a look at it and see, if it is something that will be driving out,
And as the judge said, you have to match it up with the soil.
Right. Well, there's a gentleman that we've been talking with, I can't remember his name, that was one of his big, he wanted to come and take some samples and send it to the lab, so they could formulate.
Yes, you have to.
Yeah. So I don't think it's just a throw it on the ground
No.
in any situation type deal, it has to be the right.
It's more expensive than your traditional Portland cement, so you want to make sure that you're matching it up about as perfectly as you can match it with your soil conditions. So you take multiple samples across the length of the road, you do an average, and you mount them together, and you do it, okay, it's got a PI of this number, we're gonna engineer this emulsion, tweak it a little bit with this characteristic, because that's gonna bind the best with that PI, that plasticity index idea. So, yeah, I'll reach out to the salesman again. I haven't heard from him since I met with him in September.
Okay.
And we'll start that process, maybe get some soil sample done. I'll talk to the ETTL. That's the local soil lab around here. I'll get them to give me a price on taking samples. We'll see what we got. And we'll start there. And then, like I said,
It's EnviroTech's got a lab that he talked about coming and getting samples of dirt.
yeah, he probably has his own down towards Houston, but there's, like I said, ETTL is a local group here that I've used before for geotech work. They have soils lab, so yeah, either place would work. Either place will give you that sort of result. So.
And I realize that we get some gas, because no one lives on the road. And I just have to remind us that we did that Friarson Road, no one lives on it yet. But to me, and both these roads are in precinct 2. And it's a bad look on me, that nothing is getting done to the roads that where I would have preferred that we didn't, should not have done Friarson Road, but did something to roads that people live on. If that makes sense to anybody, it may not make sense to anybody but me, right about now. So, even at that, these people, that's complaining, people that's calling me, weekly about the road and wanting to know, well, what can we do? You know, things like that. So I appreciate you, getting ready to step up and see what can we do.
Yeah, there are options. There are things that you can do to keep a dirt road, a gravel road passable and functioning.
Okay.
There are technologies, materials and processes that you can use to keep them good. and passable.
Very good. Any other questions, comments on our administrative report? I will move on. Item number 1 is consideration and approval of personnel changes for Harrison County Road and Bridge Department.
So we had, no new hires and no rate changes, step changes. We did have the resignation. Aaron Jernigan, we did have a termination, Mr. Prince Smith done. We are down to 42 full-time employees, which includes myself and road administrator. That leaves us with 12 vacancies. And unfortunately, those vacancies are senior equipment operators. They are crucial components to what we try to do as we get into the construction season. So we're hoping that with some effort to get the job postings out there, that we can get some folks coming in January to start to fill some of that. We still have our 4 part-time employees and we have 6 temporary vacancies. Those are temporary seasonal type crew that we get for summertime efforts.
Can you touch on maybe what's causing us to have, maybe a 25% reduction, you know, in the employees at Road and Bridge?
I think it always comes down to, when you look at these, it always comes down to the rate of pay. Right? That's usually the first thing anyone's going to tell you. If you have an exit interview because they're leaving, hey, what was the reason you're leaving? Sometimes it can be bad. Fellow employees may be a horrible work environment, but usually 9 out of 10 times it's the rate of pay. They can do better in other locations. They can do better hauling for, fracking companies. They can do better, especially your CDL truck drivers and operators. They can do better. So you always have to look at, all right, well, counties and municipal governments and state governments can't always compete with the private sector, right, from the pay scale. That's hard. But we should take a look every so often. Are we within the median of the surrounding counties around us? The cities around us. Are we at least competitive in that world, in that environment? I think a couple of years ago, Lisa did do some research. We probably need to do it again because we're on the back end of COVID. We're coming out of that. So that's probably the biggest factor. Another factor could be the type of work. Yeah, it's dusty and dirty and hot in the summertime, but so is a lot of other type of construction work. If you're setting an oil pad, it's going to be dusty and dirty and hot. So there's a number of factors that you need to look at. Work conditions, staff that you have, and then the rate of pay is probably the 3 biggest things. With rate of pay, being your number one.
But what about longevity? Do we have people that's been there a while?
Oh yeah, we have some, 30 plus years, 35 plus years that have started out as your, truck driver labor type when they maybe right out of high school or maybe right out of the military. And they've stayed here and they've risen all the way up to foreman or road administrator level. They can get to that point. So, yeah, I think the hardest part for government is to sell what we can offer. The pay rate is not going to compete privately, but there are other factors that go into that. Retirement, medical coverage, your benefit package. There's a lot of things that you can have that the private sector may not do. You might be a 1099 in the private sector, which means you got to get your own insurance, get your own life insurance, get your own medical coverage, all that, your own pension. Whereas the county government can offer that as part of it. So the rate of pay not be as high, but the benefits might be much stronger. So you have to promote yourself. You really have to get out there and just promote yourself and say how good we are. You come to work for the county, you can make it a career.
I noticed in today's society, people care less about benefits and more about the rate of pay these days. It's about.
Yep.
You got, so you got 12 senior operator, 12 senior type positions available. Are there any, you have your eyes on anybody, mid-level guys that you could pair up with a senior guy and get him ready or trained up by next year in case
We do.
it's going strong,
We do.
we don't get anybody.
And we posted that internally, and we've only had one or two people actually sign up that, and I can't get to the bottom of why they won't move up. Some of them, I think some of them had said they don't want to take on the responsibility of, reconstructing the road and all that goes with that for 52 cents more an hour. So again, circle all the way back to the rate of pay. It comes with that, and you can't necessarily blame them for that opinion or that position, but on the flip side, you try to say to them, yeah, but look at the good that you're doing in your community. Look what you're doing for your fellow citizens and residents of the county. You're improving things. Sometimes that doesn't really carry us. So, you have to sell all the other facets of what we do, but we really need to take a hard look at your rate of pay every so often and see, are we at least in the middle of those around us? Because you don't want to lose your good people to the next neighboring county, right? You want to poach from them if you can. You don't want to lose your own people. So I think that's what we've got to do. I have had conversations with Sharon about it. This is not the first time, the rate of pay has been the governing issue. We just need to figure out how do we sail those waters now, given that everyone's working a year and jump into something else. They don't care about long-term benefits. They don't care about pensions. Because they're too young to think about.
Mexico did have a program at one time. I don't know if they still have that program or not. Had talked to Luke about it, maybe a year or so ago. And that for situations just like these, we could reach out to them and they might have people that they could place in a position. I don't know if you have heard about it or.
Commissioner Timmons, I believe that was a program that we're trying to develop around the TSTC, and Medco was involved with it. And they have, taken that program. They did not have to work with it. I don't know if there wasn't enough response. The last meeting we had, I think it was roughly a year ago, they type of program.
Yeah, the premise behind it, and I was part of that as my role with the city, was not just city government or county government, state government, but oil and gas companies, site contractors. They were looking for some experienced equipment operators, backhoe operators, trackhoe, dozers, graders, because they were in need of those skilled workers to service their clients, just like we have to service the county. So, yeah, the couple of meetings I was at, it was a good idea, and they had TSTC, they had us, they had the state, they had the cities, but there was no real good groundswell. They couldn't get much traction with it. They may resurrect it again. They may bring up the idea, and TSTC was a big part because they would be the schooling part, to teach. And the cities like Marshall and the counties would commit, hey, we can send down an older backhoe so they can practice on it. That was kind of the idea. Take a kid who doesn't know what they want to do and just give them this opportunity. Hey, maybe this is something you want to do. Maybe you're good at it. Or maybe you have a great hand coordination. You can operate machinery because they need it. Every facet of what we do, private and public, needs good equipment operators to do what we do.
We had two mechanics that resigned from out there, and they went into business, is my understanding for themselves. Do we have a mechanic out there now?
Yes, we do. We
Okay.
still do. So, obviously they're short staffed, so they're doing everything they can, but we still do. So as of right now, they're doing all right. But once we get into construction season, we really need to get them filled.
Is that job being posted?
Yeah, all of our jobs are currently posted. They're all out there. Again, we tell everybody, if you know of somebody that has an interest, tell them to just look at it. Look at the job description. Maybe and fill out an application, come talk to us. So yeah, there's still some mechanics out there, but we'd like to get them filled as every bit as much as our equipment operators as we go into construction season, which will be here before we know it. And that they're key because they keep all the equipment running. And that's how we do our work. So.
Is having a requirement to have a CDL, is that a drawback?
I mean, it does have some limitations, because with a CDL, you can get paid a lot more depending for some of these private hauling companies. They'll pay. So the discussion has always been in the government environment. Well, do you try to go away from CDL? That means you have to shrink your dump truck sizes. The downside to that is one thing in a small municipal environment where your distances aren't very far. But you talk about a county that's 900 square miles, from one corner to the other, and you're trying to haul material to a job site, you're gonna have a lot more trips with a small non-CDL dump truck than you would with a full, triaxle dump truck. So there's give and take to all of that. Yeah, you would have non-CDL dump truck drivers, so maybe you have those positions filled more often. But you're having to spend more time, more fuel, more wear and tear on that truck because whereas a triaxle takes maybe 3 trips, a non-CDL dump truck might take 5. So you have to look at all of that, see, does it make sense to maybe have a bit of both? Still have your big trucks with your current CDL and maybe bring in some non-CDL trucks with non-CDL drivers.
Have you done any studies, lately, how far we are away from surrounding counties, cities?
I mean, I can only speak from what I know from Marshall, having been there. I don't know what these other counties are doing. Lisa and I have had a conversation recently that we need to reach back out and do that again. We need to figure out, hey, what, are you going non-CDL dump trucks? Are you moving into that world because of the difficulty in getting them? Finding people willing to not only have one, but go get one. There seems to be I don't know if it's a stigma with having a CDL license. There's some other factors that go into that as to why people aren't getting them. But yeah, so I've not actually spoken with my cohorts in other counties or across the state to see what they're up against or what are they running into. I'm sure that's published out there somewhere, either with the Association of Counties or my county engineer group. I'm sure it's out there. So yeah, we'll turn over every stone. We'll figure out where we are, where we sit, and what does the options look like.
And I guess that's, come back and you said it now, now we'll have to make a decision on what we want to do with it.
But we won't bring anything to you until we've investigated every possible angle, option, and the impacts of each one of those based on our limitations on revenue and budget, all those factors have to be a part of that discussion. The great thing would be I walk in here and say, you need to double everyone's hourly rate. Well, that's wonderful, and I'm sure all the guys behind me could be happy with that, but we can't afford it, right? Because the budget doesn't support it. So that would be kind of foolish for me to bring that option forward. So we've got to look at all the numbers, do all the study, all the math, figure out where we sit regionally with everyone else, and then make options to present them and say, this is what would impact the budget if we did this. This would be the impact if we did this. These are the things I'm hearing from not only our people, but some of the people that apply when they first come in to see us, when they don't take the job, what's the reason? Put all that together in a format that we can all talk about.
All right, we are on item number 1. That was approval for personnel changes for Harris County Road and Bridges. There a motion? Second. Motion by Mr. Tippins, second by Mr. Coos. Any questions? Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? None, motion passes 5-0. Number 2, consideration and action regarding the approval of utility applications submitted Harrison County Road and Bridge Department. That's Gum Springs Water Supply on Hall Drive, E-Tex Telephone Co-op on Oak Road and Chambers Road, and Sabine Oil and Gas on Young Road. We're assuming these meet all your specifications.
Yes, they do. The oil and gas submitted all their required engineering calculations to show that the pressure pipe will hold.
All right, is there a motion to approve? Motion. Motion by Mr. Coos, second by Mr. Ebar. All in favor? Any opposed? There you go. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, our from the Sheriff's Department Administrator, one Chief Revis.
First of all, I'll give you the fire marshal report, activity summary report. This is from 10/29/11.5. Citation, warrants 0, fire safety inspections 2, structure fire 1, illegal dumping cases 6, load of tires hauled off 2 loads of 166 tires, $304. Litter picked up, cubic feet, 3,780. Environmental Health Division, complaints 10, notice violations 3, citations 0, inspections 28. Utility hookups up for renewal 22, utility hookups for Paloma Harrison 13. Single family permit 15, $5,400. Commercial permit 5 and $2,800. Multifamily permit 0. Subdivision review 2 at $100 and re-inspection fee half a permit fee 0 on that. Total money collected 8,300. Consumer Health Division, total amount collected for food department permits is $1,400. Sheriff's Office Activity Report. Date 10/30 to 11/25, activity, total cost for service 2,571. Criminal reports taken 87, assigned cases 48. Arrest Harrison County Sheriff's Office 80. Traffic contacts 492, mentals 8, transports, warrants office 37 transports, 7,925 miles. Civil process, legal documents received 76, served 25 personal service, 14 indictment, 3 served in jail, 12 tax postings, 10 postings, county and district 0, Harrison Central President tax sales, unserved 61. Jury notices 800, 11/26, 25 at 9/27, our jail population is 241. 10/30 to 11/25, contract inmates, Marion County 2, U.S. Marshals 32.
Any questions for Chief Revis on administrative report?
Do we bill U.S. Marshal Service on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis?
If there are no other questions, we'll move on to item number 1. This is consideration and action regarding the approval of the memorandum of understanding law enforcement support between a group called Our Rescue and Harrison County Sheriff's Office, which is a nonprofit organization that exists to protect children from sex trafficking and sexual exploitation in the amount of a donation of $6,335, of which Our Rescue will pay this donation amount to Gray Key Light License for said purpose. You will tell us about what all they actually do?
Gray Key is a software we use to break into cell phones and other electronic devices that have passwords, especially like an Apple phone. They're next to impossible to try to break the code. And the Gray Key helps us break these codes.
And so Our Rescue is going to donate $6,335 to pay for this license for Gray Key. All right, is there a motion to approve? Okay. Motion by Commissioner Goose, second by Commissioner Ebar. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? None, motion passes 5-0. That's it. Thank you, Chief. Next up, our county clerk has got some minutes here. Number 1 is consideration of approval to transcribe minutes of the Commissioners Court meeting on November 14th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Timmons, second by Commissioner Ebar. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? None, motion passes 5-0. Number 2 is consideration of approval of transcribed minutes of the Commissioners Court meeting on November 20th, 2025. Second, motion by Commissioner Timmons, second by Commissioner Coos. All in favor? Any opposed? None, motion passes 5-0. Next up is our treasurer. Good morning, Ms. Rushing.
Morning, Judge and Commissioners.
Number 1 is consideration of approval of the Harrison County Treasurer's investment report for the month of September 2025.
For the month of September Texas class, I'm sorry. beginning, balance for September was $1,164,700. We did, deposit $5 million into that and withdrew $25,772.64. Interest rate with Texas Classic was, 4.34. Interest earned was $15,364.14 with an ending balance of $6,154,291.50. For, Texas Bank and Trust Wealth Management, we have a balance there was $9,012,092.11. Interest earned on our investments for September was $140,862.78. Total investment balance is $15,166,383.61. Texas Bank and Trust Money Market. Interest earned for September was $55,275.92. Ending balance $13,832. $832,891.45. Texas Bank and Trust main account interest earned was $5,176.59. The total monthly interest for September was $216,679.43. With a year-to-date total interest of $1,805,649.03.
Way to go, collecting 1.8 million on interest for our investments. That's fantastic for a year. What's that? That's almost 2 cents worth of tax rate. That's terrific. Any questions or
We had 2
comments?
great years in a row, and I'm not sure how this year's gonna unfold, but
Yeah, well, we know Fed's already started dropping rates, so I'm seeing that in some of our rates now. It's been good. Any questions or comments on the investment report for September 2025? If not, is there a motion to approve? Motion. Second. Motion by Commissioner Rebar, second by Commissioner Coos. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any motion passes 5-0. Number 2 is consideration of action regarding the approval of Treasurer's monthly report for September 2025 and authorization to publish on the county website pursuant to local government code section 114.026.
beginning, balance for September was $19,570,921.85. Receipts totaling $11,245,725.05. Disbursements $17,193,580.70. Ending balance plus our cash plus investment balance for September was $28,789,449.81.
Is there a motion to approve our treasurer's monthly report for September 2025?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hatfield, second by Commissioner Ebar. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, man. All right, under new business item number 1 is consideration and action regarding the approval of the agreement between Wolpert Inc. and Harrison County for advisory services with the purpose of the engagement on as needed time and materials basis at $150 per hour unless a written change is approved. I can consult with the sponsor and assist with the sponsor with advisory services, inclusive but not limited to grant application administration support, rates and charges guidance, or document support, aviation planning support, technical aviation support, and facility standards and development. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Timmons, second by Commissioner Hatfield. Any questions or comments? I understand this was on the agenda last time. Y'all had some questions or concerns. Get that answered. Let's talk about it. Monday. So simply a summary of this. At the airport, we have 3 grant programs that are all administered through TxDOT. Most of that money, maybe all of it, comes from the federal government. One's called the RAMP grant. That's a routine airport maintenance program, pays for this routine maintenance. That is pretty easy. The other 2, one is called a non-primary entitlement airport grant that you get about almost $300,000 a year. That can only be used for, well, airfield things first. It's gotta be something very directly related to that airfield, pavement, marking, lighting. Once you get all that taken care of, then you can use some of those funds for stuff off the airfield, like parking lots. The other one is a temporary one that is expiring here, maybe in 26 or 27. It is called the IIJA. Investment in something in the Jobs Act that was part of the COVID. The federal government doled up that money. And it also is about almost $300,000 a year. If you don't jump through all the hoops that the federal government requires of TxDOT, requiring of us, you don't get any of those monies. We probably missed out on 600,000 or more because we don't have the expertise to know what all we can spend the money on, then developing the project, whether it's engineering or architecture. We have an airport manager out there, but his expertise is not in architecture.
The mail's my question, so this is, and then you answered it, basically, it's more technical above
That's
this.
right. That's right. And this $150 an hour can be included and paid from the grant. So it's not like, oh, we want most more money. So it's included in those grants. So we've got some projects out there. We've talked about replacing or upgrading the bathrooms for a long time, and we could use some grant monies for that. Maybe building some new hangars at some point, definitely in the parking lot. So we need them to prove to TxDOT, we met all our runways are in good shape, our lights are in good shape. Now we'd like to spend some of that money on non-air side, bathrooms, parking.
And will Danny, I did be in coordination with, this, Wolford, back and they'll head it up. Yep. That's all. That's all I was.
So these are not like some of the, grants that's come through in the past where they do all the paperwork, all the design, administrative, financial, whatever. And then take a percentage of what they granted. Theirs is just a flat, anytime they work to apply for, they get $150.
That's right. So those you're talking about were through TxDOT itself, where they say, hey, we've got some program like our, when they resurface our runway out there, they say, hey, we've got this program going, we'll handle it all for you. That's not, these are different grants than that. So that these, you have to go prove it up yourself and come up with all the specs for them to meet.
Where's Wolford at? I mean, we need them out here, we're paying for travel time and all that's probably not a problem. But they're not local, probably not local.
I'm not sure what they're based out of. However, TxDOT Aviation Director, former director of TxDOT Aviation is one of our primary contacts. He's a Texas guy, so they might be based in,
They've got them all over the United States.
they're all over, but we've got some Texas folks working on this. They're somewhere in Texas, West Texas, big place. I'm good, maybe they have their. Any other questions, comments? Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Your motion passes. 5-0. Item number 2 is consideration and action regarding the approval for upholstery of 11 benches. That's these benches here and here. 11 benches in our historic courthouse by Marshall Custom Upholstery in the amount of $6,200 with $3,100 deposit and the balance of $3,100 due and payable when the job is completed. So we've gotten a quote to not reupholster, but to build us new seats for our benches out there, $6,200 total. And then included in this motion is a payment up front for half and the balance, the other half due when finished. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Timmons, second by Commissioner Coops. Any questions or comments?
I believe they did come up here and measure the benches and everything. Because some of the cushions that there, it may have been portion of the pew and everything that did not cover the entire pew. So, Miss Judy had them, was it Miss Judy or was it her name? Had them to come out and measure to make sure that they was getting the right measurements and make sure everything was gonna be done correctly.
Thank you for your help on this. And the reason some of those are short is because those are just hand-me-downs.
Okay.
We got them from somebody else. They weren't necessarily.
They were moved over here in 2011 from the old commissioner's court, so we got our dollar's worth out of them.
I would ask that we get our maintenance, do a once over. Some of these are getting in bad shape and they've got nails and they need to be gone over and make sure that there's not any kind of problem with somebody catching their clothes
Yeah, we can do
or
that.
a leg on.
I bet you Amy would be right on.
Yeah, one phone call, Brad will be at good deal.
And get something to them.
Inside, we got a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Number 3 is consideration and approval of the facility use agreement between American Red Cross and Harrison County, Texas. Upon request, American Red Cross will be able to use and occupy the facility located at 2005 Warren Drive, Marshall, Texas 75672 on a temporary basis to conduct emergency disaster-related activities as followed with a 40-person capacity. Part of this includes a service center where they'll have operations, client services, volunteer intake, storage of supplies, parking of vehicles, disaster and they will provide commercial general liability and automobile liability as well as workers' comp. You guys should have all that information. I know that our fire marshal, Mr. McConnell, brought in as well the certificate of insurance. So the Red Cross is compliant with what they said they were going to provide. And again, this is in an emergency. We need to house people, whatever instance. Usually it's a hurricane, that kind of thing. And you guys will remember, it's kind of part of why we built such a big, nice place back there just for events like this. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hatfield, second by Commissioner Timmons. Any questions or comments?
We don't actually lose any control of the facility to them when they come in, do we?
No, sir. And we could put stipulations on for the usage. Whether we want to just keep it Harrison County citizens only, or we want to open it up to surrounding counties or even take it back to Louis from the Gulf Coast. Like, say Katrina, or unfortunately ever happen again. We have restrictions. I know one of the uses was suggested that it can also be a command center, in case something happens because of the space. We have one on the 4th floor of the courthouse over here. But if we needed the extra room, we could use it as well. But if our priorities come first, so if we decide that we needed a building more than they did, then we've got control of it. The only thing they need is the structure itself, just to keep someplace warm and dry and people to lay their heads. They supply everything else. They supply the food, the bedding, the cots, personal hygiene, volunteers to man it. during the hours of operation. The only thing we're doing is supplying the facility. They come in prior to the use, they take pictures, any damage done afterwards or during that time, they're responsible for. We also, if we see increase in the utilities, they reimburse the county for electric and water as well.
I would like to say is at least make our citizens a priority in the city.
Yes, and we, like I said, we can put whatever guidelines towards that, it's within necessary.
Right, so in this, we're not giving them blanket, it's yours, turning over the keys.
Well, that's what,
We're still fully, involved in it and can, we can decline if they.
Yes,
won't hear.
At any point in time, I know there's a lot of bad legislation people after the Katrina, we had bad elements come up, unfortunately, with some good people. There was a lot of stuff that had to be redone in the town. If we want to keep it local to our people first, that's part of our,
We have that option.
well, I think it's important if we take care of our own first.
yes,
You know, and then if there is need outside ours, if we have room for, for whatever happens, then yeah, I would think we won't exclude them, but I think our number one priority needs to be local people.
right, yes, sir.
But one thing, I'm glad you asked that question, because sometimes I feel like we already lost control. If everybody have the, code to the door. I mean, I've seen people that don't work for the county, come into that back door, put the code in, come right on in.
Yes, sir.
You know,
Actually, Marissa and I have had that very discussion last week about maybe getting some door codes changed. Okay, I've already talked to, Brad Thomas about, maybe changing those, and also to the ag extension side, there's one door going into their office does have a push button, lock system on it. But the other door through the small conference room does not. So we talked to them about trying to get one of those put in there as well to give them some security. Added security is also, but yes, there is a abundance of people. That facility gets used quite a bit.
Right.
And there is abundance of people who I don't know that I see coming and going on a regular basis. So.
Well, I think the way our program, that 4-H program is grown, I think we need to control all access points except maybe one in the meeting room where there's not. Because you've got adult sponsors that's coming with all these different programs that they've got going, so but that's the fastest way for any big organization to lose control of the facility. Control their keys out.
The code to that door, the meeting room door is different from the other codes, so they may have access to the big conference room, but not, I know they don't have access to our side. Now, I don't know what the door code is to ag extension, but if it is the same, then we can definitely change it.
We change that in-house, we have a couple options with that.
That would be, Brad Thomas.
Okay, I think there's a combination they work in where they.
Yeah.
The problem is,
Okay.
I've got directions to New Orleans. If y'all understand.
there's the problem I see is somebody that come to that back door. And if those ladies are up front,
Yes, sir.
may not know
Yeah.
that they have company in there.
And that's one of the things, like I said, Mr. Rice, and I talked about was getting them some better security on that state.
I think there'd be a door on that conference side that needs to have a lock on it, because they can't come through that back and come right on into that side.
Right. There's a push button lock there, but if you're in a hurry or something, you may not lock it correctly, or, you may assume that it is secure, but it's not. So with that combination lock that locks every time the door closes, you got some security there.
We need to look at getting that.
Yeah, we need to go through the front door. Let them in.
Yes,
And let them know that we have people at the back door.
right.
And that way they'll know who's in the building. Yes, I'm talking.
Good thoughts. Any other questions, comments on the Red Cross agreement? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None, motion passes 5-0. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Hatfield, second by Commissioner Ebar. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. We're adjourned. It's 10:11 a.m. Thank you.
All right. Another one.
I'm going to like to wish you had a good one. Good luck at home. It did.